Testing, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Testing, mic check, mic check, mic check. All right. Short, again, powerful accolades out the wazoo, but here it is. Here to deliver a poem or two that speaks to the theme of trauma, survival, and empowerment. Please welcome an award-winning American poet, international spoken word life artist, entertainer, lecturer, promoter, producer, host, published author, mentor, and activist, and now recently an NAACP Image Award nominee with over 30 years in the game, the king of poetry, Blaq Ice. Give it up, everybody.
Today my son was asked the question to draw a picture of his hero. And after thinking for a moment about who made the most De Niro, he drew a picture of me in a mirror. Came home and he posted it on the refrigerator door. And when I saw it, it touched me to the core. I was outdone. There's nothing more than a father wants to hear than admirations from his son. So that night as I tucked him in, I wanted to be crystal clear. So I sincerely whispered in his ear, "Son, I love you." And yawning with his hands in front of his mouth, he said, "Daddy, I love you too." As he laid in front of me, I was touched. It was like a needle had stuck me in my arm and my blood was right in front of me. So I thought to myself, I wonder, does he really know for me what he has done? And does he know that I never could have been a father until he made me one? And that until he was born, I never really knew me. And that I didn't know a thing about responsibility until he gave it to me. And that until he was born, my future was kind of dim. But now that he's here, my life has been extended because even when I'm gone, I can live through him. And although me and your moms don't get along, but that leaving you and your little brother in the house overnight was dead wrong, yet he was strong enough to take the time out to take care of his little brother. It's just a shame that at 11 years old, he had to play the role as the man of his mom's house. Yet with all these distractions, he struggled to keep his eyes on the prize when dealing with the everyday life of living in a low-income high-rise, not to mention dealing with his mother's addiction to drugs. But I swore my life that he would never be a statistic or listed as a thug. So when he would come home with me on the weekend, I would help to build his self-esteem. I allowed him to dream and taught him just what it meant to be a strong black king and kept him away from all hurt, harm, and danger. And told my son that you could be successful living in a low-income home if Jesus was born in a manger.
Spit that.
All right.
There was like this deep-rooted anger that reflected in his attitude, which caused some of his teachers to call me at home from school, but they ain't got a clue as to what he going through now. And until he found a way to channel his anger, it just kept on slowing him down. But I'm proud to announce that he finally got it under control. Not only did he win first place in the school science project, but for the first time in his life, my little 11-year-old made the honor roll. So when I think about all the obstacles, the peer pressure from the other children, all the slanging and banging that he sees in front of his mother's building, the drug problems dealing with his mother, playing the role as the man of his mom's house and taking care of his little brother. When I think about how far he has come, and despite all the obstacles, everything that he had achieved and done, my son may consider me to be his hero. But to me, my hero is my son. Rest in peace. So, my son's mother was probably the only abusive relationship that I've been in my life. She had been used to fighting her boyfriend, of course, before me, in order to express how she actually felt. I wasn't used to that. I came from a house where I had a mother and a father, and I got 3 sisters, and I hated the way men treated my 3 sisters. So I said that I would never treat a woman the way these men treated my 3 sisters. Get them pregnant, not be there for their child, or whatever the case may be. And so I remember this woman. I'm a dresser. I like suits, right? She would go in the closet and put mayonnaise on my suits. I had never heard about nothing like that before. But apparently mayonnaise is made with oil, and oil leaves stains. So these are things, it was real like sadistic thinking. I remember one day we had an argument. She came into the room and she had a foam cup and it looked like she was drinking water. It was bleach in the cup. She threw the bleach in my face. All of a sudden, all I know is that my face is just burning. And so I had to make a decision after a while that as much as I love you, I have to love me first. And I have to love me more than I love you. And at one point, I would say that, see, men, where I come from, we took care of our women. All I saw was my father work. He was a truck driver. He took care of my mother. My mother pretty much stayed at home. Back in the day, you could do that. And so we were the type of men in our family where I can help fix her. I can help her get out of this thinking and get out of this stage, but it wasn't for me to do that. That was God's job. And so, in her dilemma, she had something called what I call a gap. Somebody said a gap. Gap is something that I learned from driving Uber. And this man got in my car and he was a Buddhist. And I'm like, well, what is this all about? I've never really studied your religion. He said, it's really pretty much about the gap. I said, what do you mean the gap? He said, the gap is the distance between your expectations and what your reality is. And so although she had seen herself certain places, she could never get there because of the type of mentality that she had. Wow. And so because I had the type of mentality that she wanted, she drew to me a God-fearing man, a man with a strong spiritual foundation, a man who would take care of the woman, and that's what attracted me to her. And so even today, when she sees me, she still wants me back. And I say, I ain't never going back down that road again. I'll be there for you if you need me, but I ain't never going back down that road again. But God knew what he was doing. I fought for custody for my son. The courts wouldn't give it to me. One day I got a call from social services and said, Mr. Hawthorne, we need you to come and pick up your son. I'm like, what are you talking about? We have him here with us. I come down there. Apparently, her second child was born with crack in her system. And so they would do random drops when they would visit. And so when they did this random visit, her drop was not clean, so they took the children. And he said, well, we understand according to your son and according to your son's mother's family that you are heavily involved in his life. We need you to come and get your son. And that's how I got custody of my son. Amen. Now, to make a long story short, God knew what he was doing. Shortly after I got custody of my son, he began to complain about a pain in his leg. Took him to the doctor. They did an x-ray. She called me into the office. She said, come and bring your son. Let us give you the results from the x-ray. I said, it's ISET testing. My son is taking tests. I can't bring him, but I'll come. I sat down across from her desk. And she said, it appears as if your son has cancer. I said, I couldn't hear anything else after that. Her mouth was moving, but I couldn't hear anything else after that. She said, take your son to the University of Chicago, get a biopsy. Sure enough, it was cancer. It was osteosarcoma. To make a long story short, September the 3rd, 2008, I lost my 15-year-old son to osteosarcoma cancer. The reason why I'm saying all these things is because when we suffer trauma in our life, and when we suffer losses in our life, God gives us a choice. It's almost like Job. You can curse God to his face, or you can say to yourself in your spiritual maturity, how do we expect good from the Lord and not evil? And so through that trial and that tribulation, God has put me on a path to be ministering to those who are out there suffering some of the same things that I went through. So with that being said, I thank God, number one. I thank Brother Mike Gwynn for having me. I thank you, too, sister. And I thank all of you all who are survivors, who are turning your test into a testimony, yes, and a mess into a message.
Hello.
Thank you.
All right, then.
Black guys, everybody. Black guys, everybody. All right. Wait now, listen, we're not going to take a break. We'll have plenty of time.